All right, everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and we've got some good and very bad news for the free-to-play player base today. We're going to get into all this. A lot of this is centered around the comeuppance coming for Zorii Bliss. We've known that this ship would be on the horizon for a long time, basically since she's been released. So now we've finally gotten our comeuppance, and she's here, and honestly, you've got to give Capital Games credit for the timing of this. Post Lightspeed bundles, everybody's been going for Rey. They've got their Resistance fleet, and now, hey, here's a new Resistance ship for all of you who have been, buying these Lightspeed bundles and going after Zorii, spending that money. So, got to give them credit for thinking ahead because this has obviously been very planned. So, we're going to get into not so much the kit reveal, but some of the consequences, the comeuppance for the comeuppance coming into Galaxy of Heroes. So if you guys can like, subscribe, comment down below, let me know your thoughts. Let's give a huge shout out to the channel members for all of their continued support. Of course, my pictures aren't loading because why would they? That's just too much to ask, right? Thank you guys again for continuing to show your support in this channel. Again, if you're ever interested in joining, those links are always in the video description down below, along with the Discord. I just really need to give these guys a special shout out for putting their faith in me to bring you good content. So let's get into the game here. Let's talk about the comeuppance coming into Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I actually do want to go to the forums here. So let's go here, and let's move my fat face out of the way first. Okay, fat face out of the way. And now let's go here. All right, so here is the comeuppance, the artwork. When it initially came out, I preferred the artwork that Meathead had. Again, Meathead doing... I want to give him credit. When this initially came out, it was like a little sketch, hand-drawn thing, and it looked horrible, but it was beautiful because he's like final artwork pending. It was a really funny touch, right? Meathead, I think, has really been trying to bring some humor, some lightness back to the community, and it's been really good. Like, we knew that wasn't the final thing, so it was a funny gesture. I really liked it. Here's the final thing. So the first thing I want to note is right here. The scoundrel tag is something that's been in ships, but the smuggler tag, this to me means something's coming, because they don't just add tags in the game at random. Let me show you guys something. If you go to fleets here, we're going to be flipping back and forth between the game and the, and the forums a lot here. Do you notice that you go from scoundrel to separatist? So there's no smuggler faction in the ships. But when you type it in, look at this. Now we've got the Outrider and the comeuppance here. So there's only 2 smuggler ships in the game. Now, if you remember back when unaligned force users first came into the game, I believe it was the Starkiller release that was the first time that it happened. Oops, sorry, the music cut out there. Got to put that back on. There we go. When this first happened, if you remember, they retconned all of the old unaligned force users like Asajj Ventress, Stick Rey, Jedi Training Rey, Commander Luke Skywalker. They retconned them. They brought them back. I actually wonder, was Starkiller was Commander Tano the first one? I'm trying to remember it might have been Commander Tano, but they retconned all these older unaligned force users. And so, I think that was a good move, but I'm wondering if they're going to do the same thing with ships, where maybe we look at some of these, scoundrel type ships, like Han's Millennium Falcon could be smuggler, Lando's Falcon could be a smuggler, would you consider, Bosk or somebody else, right? But I'd be very curious to see what other ships could come in with smugglers tags. They don't just hand these things out for fun. There's a reason for it. I'm very curious as to what it is. So that's the first thing that's a little bit concerning for free-to-play, is that adding these additional tags to ships could mean that something else is coming to the game, and I'm just not quite sure what that is, right? So let's flip back over to the forums. There's plenty more to cover here in this post to make you sad. So the nice thing here, it is going to assist allies with deflector shields. So that's some good resistance synergy, out-of-turn attacks, target locked enemies, and the reinforcement exposes all enemies. Right here, they've basically gone ahead and said, too, that reinforcing provides a dramatic buff to resistance allies. So this should be your first reinforcement, which is solid because I think the starting resistance fleet is very good. We've just needed that extra oomph off the bench, and that's what Zorii is here. Again, when we added Zorii, her Y-Wing immediately considered and put onto the roadmap. So very well timed again with those Lightspeed bundles. But this next bullet point here is extremely concerning. The Resistance was the only fleet with fewer than 5 ships, so this inclusion would be vital moving forward with fleets as a system. Now, I do want to cover this at the bottom. They did add a little bit of thing, and they said, note, with the release of Comeuppance, all faction fleets now have a minimum of 5 ships available to them. Fleet-based galactic challenges will now require 5 ships for full faction feet. This change is horrible for the free-to-play community, because what a lot of us would do is you'd go into the game, right? And if you remember, it was like you needed to survive with 3 ships. So what you could realistically do was I'd go ahead and bring my Executor, and I'd just remove, say, one of these ships, and you'd put in 3 of those other faction ships. Now requiring 5 ships for that faction would include your capital ship, but also means that, let's say you don't have the, let's say you're going to run Executor and you bring in like Houndstooth and Xanadu Blood or something, then you need to have 5 ships. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like it's not a nice number for us. It's not a good number to use. It's going to break things up. So going to that 5 is very challenging, and I think a lot of players will struggle with that. There may still be some ways to cheese it, but it's going to be a lot more difficult than it used to be, where you could just throw 3 reinforcements in and win the GC. So definitely a big impact there, and something that I would be watching out for, right? So again, I don't think that that's everything, though. And I want to make that very clear, that I don't think this is the only change that's going to be happening, because of the way they said fleets as a system. So they're looking at the entire fleets situation. And honestly, guys, fleets is something that has been very stale. While the meta has changed a little bit from, the Thrawn fleet to the Negotiator to Executor and Profundity, now Leviathan, like they've changed a lot of the meta in Fleet Arena, but they've never really added anything else to warrant building more ships, right? Think of it like this. And again, we're going to flip back over to Grand Arena here. Again, I hope you guys are appreciating, like I'm trying to go back and forth between these things. The kit reveal, we'll cover that in a little bit, but like this update here is just, it's kind of puzzling for free to play. So here's my current Grand Arena. Again, I didn't stream this, it didn't record it, just played it when I had the time here. But ships has always been in this back corner. It's the ship territory. It's always been in this back corner. They don't allow players to ever move it. You can't move it here or to your front wall. It has to stay here. And this to me has been a sticking point of kind of a slap in the face to the people who do like invest in ships, because like my opponent, for example, let's say I went really heavy into Galactic Legends. So my opponent cleared these 2 walls, and then he got stopped here by Galactic Legends Leia, along with some other things. He, failed a couple of battles here, which is good. But the Galactic Legends Leia, she stopped him from getting 2 fleets. So if I have garbage fleets, say I don't have a single top tier fleet, just for the sake of argument, it doesn't matter if I placed them back here. What matters is that can my opponent even get there? Now, of course, there's all these different strategies of, the ship's only defense, but that's assuming you can get to your opponent's ships to like take advantage of your advantage there, right? To take advantage of you building more ships, you have to be able to get to your opponent's ships, and then at the same time kind of, if you can get to your opponents, then you've got to make sure you're clearing ground troops. So I just feel like there's never really been good recompense for players who invest more in fleets outside of Fleet Arena. But remember that if you have like one solid fleet in Fleet Arena, you can dominate, right? Or you can at least score well. You think with Profundity right now, you're able to climb into first place. Even with Executor, you can climb into first place against these Leviathans. So like there's not a lot of, similar to the old Squad Arena where one good team could get you first place in Squad Arena every single time. Fleets is kind of in that similar situation right now. And again, just using Grand Arena there as an example, that like they've never really updated fleets to say, hey, we're going to, add in another game mode. Like we've gotten Conquest, we've gotten game modes where we utilize a lot more of our characters, but not so much the fleets. And so, the Galactic Challenge change is a big deal, but only if fleet Galactic Challenges are more common. So again, I know I've been going on a little bit, but I want to make sure that we get into a little bit more of this. Another thing I'm just going to say here from a free-to-play perspective that's good is that it's a Galactic Chase. And they said starting Friday, but they only told us like yesterday what the kind of energy would be. So they're not giving players a lot of time to hoard their energy. Not the worst thing in the world. Like you don't really need to hoard energy to get one of these things done. They normally last about like 10 days or I forget how long they last, but like it's enough period of time that if you've saved crystals, you're normally able to do this, but it is in fleet energy. Again, they always use fleet energy because it doesn't count towards 600. That's always been my personal opinion, that it doesn't count towards your 600, so it's going to force you to have to spend crystals to stay in your guild there, and then there. I mean, that's just always how I've seen it. I always feel like it's been a little bit on the Like, just put it in regular. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be so much easier. But anyway, in terms of, like, the rest of this ship, I mean, it is, some of the stuff here, it is good. It's Galactic Chase. And I think on the positive side here, when we start getting into a little bit more positive for the free-to-play, the Resistance fleet definitely needs a boost. Whether the comeuppance will be the kind of boost to this fleet that allows it to be, you know, Leviathan, I doubt it. You know, maybe, you know, might struggle against Profundities, but could it maybe climb against Executor? You know, not sure. But for the players who don't have as many fleets, this could be a really solid fleet moving forward. That I think oftentimes a lot of us only think about, those content creators, myself included, we're only like, if it doesn't help me kill Leviathan, Executor, Profundity, this is a trash ship. But if this fleet is going to be vital for players to provide some backbone to them until they get those later fleets, then it's a solid addition. So I'm curious to see just what this ship can be. Big thing noticing here right away is that the basic, if it has dramatic entrance, all Resistance allies gain crit chance up and crit damage up. That's a big boost because this fleet has always struggled with damage output. You really want critical hits on this fleet. You know, Poe kind of being your primary source of damage, now kind of allowing other ships to get in on the mix is a big deal. The special one, Want to Come With Me. Again, out of context, that name sounds so strange, but we do have to remember that all of the names of the abilities, to at least give them some, you know, credit, it's all stuff that came from The Rise of Skywalker. Whether or not we like that movie, they did, like, get all of this stuff from The Rise of Skywalker, so that is nice. If the enemy has target lock, you gain dramatic entrance. So again, gaining that dramatic entrance, kind of keeping that flowing, is going to be important to keep your buffs moving. The next one, Want to Come With Me. The final text is expose target enemy for 2 turns, which can't be evaded or resistance. All Resistance allies gain Foresight for 1 turn. If target enemy already had expose, call all Resistance allies to assist, and all Resistance allies recover 25% protection. That extra survivability is huge. That's a really big deal. The unique comeuppance has 30% max health and protection. I've always found this a bit, like, just funny for ships that, like, oh, you know, 30% max health and protection. Basically, it means if you have the higher relic your Zorii, the more benefit from this unique you're getting. Similar to characters, but with characters, like, you could mod them for health or mod them for protection. With ships, it's, hey, get her to relic 9 and you're going to have just as much as the next person. You know, there's no way to get more of it. Resistance allies, you know, in the unique one then, right? So it has this, and then Resistance allies gain 10% turn meter when they use a basic on an enemy with expose. So what I'm thinking is that if you use this ability to target someone with expose, you could be gaining a crazy amount of turn meter, right? Everybody's going to be gaining that turn meter. So you think, if, what I'm curious of, and I think this would be the order of operations, like you have 4 resistance ships targeting an enemy with expose, that's 40% turn meter. Whenever they gain bonus turn meter while they have less than 100% turn meter, they gain protection up 20%, stacking for 1 turn. That is a big deal. And especially if your fleet is light on buff dispels, this is a huge, huge boost for your fleet. Again, keeping that resistance alive even longer. Unique 2, I think you're okay. Comeuppance has a 100% counter chance. That's super nice, because remember, the basic says deal damage to target enemy. If it has dramatic entrance, all allies gain critical chance up, critical damage up for 1 turn. So that could be super, super nice there that, hey, if she's got dramatic entrance, she's countering, so you're going to get these things. And again, if there's target lock on that enemy, she's going to gain dramatic entrance for 1 turn. So again, a very good ability there. I think that counter chance is super helpful. Whenever another resistance ally with Deflector Shield uses an ability, Comeuppance assists. Again, more assists, more buffs. Whenever a resistance ally attacks out of turn, they gain potency up for 2 turns and inflict target enemy with target lock for 1 turn if they didn't already have it. So now you're getting that target lock, which is then allowing you to again get more dramatic entrance. So that is really, really good. And the extra potency is nice for some of those resistance ships that inflict expose, allowing you to gain turn meter. So this ship looks like it's really going to do some good things. Just keep in mind that any ship that has daze, like Leviathan, will kind of shut this down. And then, of course, I think Profundity maybe a little bit with the turn meter. Have to wait and see how that one pans out. But Executor looking like it might be a pretty good shot here. Then finally, the reinforcement. Remove dramatic entrance from all resistance allies. Then everybody gains it for 2 turns, which can't be all that stuff. Then All enemies are exposed, which can't be evaded or resisted. Reduce the cooldowns of all resistance allies with Deflector Shield by 1. That is crazy good, right? You're inflicting exposed. You're going to be able to take a turn right away to give everybody turn meter. Then you're granting them everybody this dramatic entrance, which is 25% more offense. Deal bonus true damage equal to 10% of the target's max health. And gain 20% turn meter and dramatic entrance if you defeat an enemy. So think somebody like Poe, whose ship deals a lot of damage as it is. If he's killing enemies, gaining additional turn meter, regaining this is a really, really good ability. Very, very excited for this ship in the standpoint that I think it is going to bring the resistance fleet into the fold. Not sure what it will and won't be. Be very curious to see the testing there. The nice thing with testing ships is that, like, you can test them outside of Grand Arena and know exactly what they're going to do because there's no Omicrons. So that is really nice. We'll be able to see how this ship works immediately. So, coming full circle, saying, you know, free to play, like, there's good news, there's bad news. I think overall, this coming as a galactic chase, and I think getting into a fleet like the Resistance is going to be important. Now, the downside to it being the change to galactic challenges is a really bad change. Like, 5 ships is a lot. Completely taking away a lot of the cheese we've been using. But I think the biggest thing is trying to understand what this fleets as a system means. There's a lot you could dig in here. I don't think this is them saying we're going to take crystals out of Fleet Arena, because there's no other place to put those crystals that would be fair to the player base, right? I don't think you could change it to Grand Arena now, because players who are in the lower levels of Grand Arena do depend on those 400 crystals from fleets. So I want to know what this means. I think the smuggler tag means something's coming, guys. So again, let me know your thoughts. What do you want to see? Like, subscribe, comment. I love all you. May the force be with you, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.